Hi, and welcome to River Cruising 101. Everything you need to know before you go. If you've ever dreamed of exploring Europe, Asia, or even Africa and Egypt from the comfort of a floating boutique hotel, you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to walk you through the essentials of river cruising, what to expect, how to prepare, and why this style of travel is winning hearts, especially amongst Gen X women ready for their next adventure. It's your turn now. So let's start by sharing a map of the main rivers in Europe, and we'll go from there. All right. Okay, so what we're looking at here is we're looking at an overview that has um, some of the main rivers that you'll see on itineraries for the river cruising in Europe. So we're going to see this is the Rhine River, and it will connect here to the Moselle, which is this one here that goes out this way. And then you're also going to see that it continues down into the main river, and through the main river, you're going to end up with the main Danube Canal, which then flows into the Danube River all the way through Vienna into Hungary. This map doesn't go as far as Budapest, but it is the same river that goes all the way through Budapest and the Eastern European countries right out to the sea. So that is going to be sort of your main river that goes all the way through there. So most people will start with a river cruise that's either on the Danube or on the Rhine, just depending on what you want to see. The Rhine River has the Rhine River Gorge, which is where you'll see the uh, vast number of castles right along the river as you're cruising. We also do cruise on some of the rivers in France, which isn't noted on this particular map, as well as the Douro River in Portugal. And as I mentioned, we also have sailings on the Mekong in Asia, and on the Chobe River in Africa, and on the Nile River in Egypt. So there are a lot of things that you can see from the rivers. So let's get started with a little slide presentation. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm just going to pop that up, move myself somewhere else because I'm in the way. I'm going to go full screen so we can walk through this. All right, so river cruising, your gateway to intimate travel. So unlike ocean cruises, focus stays on destinations rather than ship amenities with river cruising because you're really there to see where you're going, not to look at the 8 million things your cruise ship has to offer. So this is just a side picture of a very standard river ship. They look, generally speaking, all look fairly similar. Colors may vary, and the type of balconies may vary, but the overall is fairly similar. So what to expect on boards? Well, your accommodations will be well-appointed cabins with large windows or balconies, spacious suites with boutique hotel comforts. So that means that on most river ships, you're going to find that your shampoo and conditioner is included. You're going to have nice beds, good linen. You're going to have what else are we going to say about your cabins? Some cabins will have, depending on what stateroom type you're in, will either have a swan view window, which is a bigger window that opens up sort of at river level, or you might have a panoramic window, which is a floor to ceiling glass window that comes from the top down and opens up. You may have a French balcony where you can open the doors, but you can't step out, or there could be a real balcony. It really depends on what you're looking for. I always tell people that unless you're going in extremely nice weather, like the middle of summer, and you're planning on cruising a lot during the day, say as on our Douro River, that a balcony isn't a huge issue because the entire top level of the river ship is one ginormous balcony where there's much more comfortable chairs. There's usually a swimming pool on a lot of ships. And you can just really enjoy the 360-degree view from that vantage point versus a balcony. The other thing to know is that when you're docked in your ports, sometimes you won't really want to access your balcony because you may be right beside another ship if they are doing side-by-side docking. So talk to the travel advisor. We'll be able to help you walk through that and figure out what is the right stateroom cabin for you. So dining and amenities, regional cuisines and local wines are definitely almost always featured on river ships. A lot of ships and companies will also have a very much farm to table perspective on dining. So they really do try to get most of the food as close to the ports as possible. It not only gives you an authentic experience for the region that you're traveling through, it also helps cut down on carbon and be more environmentally friendly. Open seating, there's no assigned seatings in restaurants on the river ships. It encourages everybody to make friends. Um, and a lot of them will also offset and have some of the bigger tables be an odd number to allow the solo guests to sit with a group of people and not feel out of place because there's an odd number of chairs. Some of their ships will have multiple restaurants. Some will have like a specialty restaurant and then their main dining room. It just depends on the configuration for that river ship line. There's also going to be lounges and bars, fitness centers, and sometimes spas and hairstylists and nails. Just depends on the ship and the cruise line again. So the atmosphere is very personable. It's meant to be a small, unique, intimate sailing. Less than 200 guests. A lot of them are actually less than 150 guests. Very casual, easy connections with other travelers and the crew. So this makes it unique for solo people, as it really does give you the opportunity to meet other guests that are traveling solo and even other guests that are traveling together. It's just more intimate, and people are generally very willing to get to know everybody on the ship. All right. So enriching onboard experiences. So onboard experiences on ships on the river are different than on ships on the ocean. So you're going to have entertainment and learning. You're going to do even the evenings, you'll have a lot of live music. You'll have some cultural shows and lectures, cooking demonstrations, and things that will help bring your destination to life. Personalized choices. So almost every cruise line has multiple options as far as what shore excursions you're going to do when you get into your port. It could be anywhere from 1 to 2 options, or they could have 5 or 6 options, depending on the cruise line. A lot of them will have a more active set of options and then some more easy walking type of options for those guests that don't want anything strenuous. So that is something that is outlined in your pre-cruise information as well. You can get 100 more pieces of information from your cruise director once you're on board. And there isn't the same type of, unless it's like an extra paid tour that sometimes cruise lines will offer, there isn't as much issues with changing your mind if you decide you want to do something different after the first one you pick. If it's something that is paid for, then there's usually a very limited number of spots, and those ones will sometimes sell out. So if there's something on the paid for excursions that you really want to do on the cruise line you're with, I would recommend booking that as soon as possible because there is a good chance that it could sell out. So there's social opportunities, not a lot of language lessons, I would say, maybe the odd one here and there. Group activities, for sure. Everything that we do on river ships is group based. So all your shore excursions will be group based. There'll be smaller groups than you'll see when you do an shore excursion on an ocean ship, but you'll definitely get to know the people that you're on those shore excursions with a lot more. So the shore excursion, the heart of river cruising. So in the included tours, you're going to get things like guided walking tours, castle visits, wine tastings, and local insider knowledge because all of your guides are going to be local guides from whatever place you're going. So they really do know the port and the city and the history amazingly well, and they are more than happy to share that with the guests that they're taking out on tours for sure. So this is a picture of some guests walking through historic old town in one of the ports. So you're going to have some free exploration time. It just depends on the itinerary and what they're doing, but they will try to give free time to linger in cafes or stroll down the streets or the riverbanks. The odd place you'll have enough time to do museum visits, etc. And then, as I mentioned, there's going to be active options where there's going to be complimentary bikes, hiking excursions for more adventurous experiences. And truthfully, if you want to take bikes from the cruise ship and you want to bike between one port and the next port, that can be arranged as well. You just have to arrange it with the cruise director so that they know not to expect you on the ship when the ship is ready to leave that port. There's not a lot that isn't possible on a river cruise because it is a smaller venue and they can make that kind of accommodations, let's just say. So choosing your perfect river itinerary. As I mentioned in the intro, you've got your classic rivers, the Danube, the Rhine, offer history, culture, scenery. The Seine in France offers perfect itineraries for art and food lovers. Then we have our wine enthusiasts, and I really do believe wine enthusiasts can find a river or a cruise that will suit them on almost any of the rivers. The Douro in Portugal has a lot of wine experiences and stunning terraced landscapes. And the thing with the Douro is the Douro, you only sail during the day because you cannot sail on the Douro at night. So that is a strictly daytime sailing. So you'll see all the scenery that there is to see, plus you'll do your excursions from there. You'll, like I said, also get wine tours on the Rhine for sure, the Moselle, even some of the Danube will have some Rhine itinerary or some wine itineraries as well. And certain cruise lines actually offer wine specific cruises. So if you're a wine enthusiast, that is an excellent thing to speak to us about, and we can help find an itinerary that suits you for that. Then there's also the hidden gems, the smaller rivers and the lesser known ports provide some unique cultural experiences. I myself really love the Moselle River. There's a lot of unique things along the Moselle to do, and some of the other unique places are cruising along Asia's Mekong River. That's a very unique experience, culturally very in-depth, as well as visiting the Nile and the history that is there for sure. So, selecting your cabin. As we mentioned in the intro, there are several different views, and it really does depend on what you're looking at from a space perspective, a price perspective, as well as the differences I mentioned in windows and that kind of stuff. So that is something that once we figure out your sailing, we can look at all the different options that are available for rooms for sure. So packing essentials. So river cruising, the best thing I can tell you is that it is smart to pack in layers because depending on the time of the year, you can have very fluctuating weather as you're sailing down the river. So I would recommend layers and easy to mix and match pieces. You're going to be mostly informal, but you'll want to probably have one or two smart options for the captain's dinner and for going to the specialty restaurants if that's something you choose. And I would also definitely recommend comfortable shoes. I would never do Europe without either a pair of light hiking shoes or running shoes. Um, because walking on the cobbles all day will wreak havoc on your feet and your legs if you don't have supportive footwear for that. Also consider if you're doing a late fall or early spring, there is probably going to be some snowy weather as well as rainy weather. So you're going to want to make sure you have something that's going to keep your feet dry. All right, other essential items. So in Europe, of course, they do not run the same power as we do. They are on 220 versus 120. So you will need an adapter. So just make sure you've got one that's good for Europe. It is generally a two-prong adapter. Um, but if you look on Amazon, you can definitely find lots to pick from. Just make sure you have one that's going to allow you to plug in your cables for your devices as well as any other electronics that you might have. You're also going to want to make sure you have your medications. I recommend medications go in your carry-on or your personal item on the plane. Do not pack them in your check bag because you do not want to end up in Europe or one of our other destinations with no medications. It will make the start of your trip a lot more complicated than it need be. You're also going to have your travel documents and a small fanny pack, crossbody purse, or day pack for excursions, because most people find that they want to take a bottle of water. They want to have the map that the ship will provide. Sometimes people have cameras or umbrellas, so it's good to have something a little bit that you can put those items in. You do not generally need to have an umbrella unless you want a small compact one, as the ships will have umbrellas on them and provide those to you if you'd like. So let's just talk a little bit about the differences between river and ocean cruising in this comparison. So the picture here is a couple of ocean ships. There's actually two docked side by side. So the width of this that you see, the first ship ends here and then goes on to a second ship. So this is the captain or the lookout for the captain's. I can't even think what it's called right at the moment. And so there's one on each of the ships. So they are much smaller, as I mentioned, generally 200 people or less. So they will be able to dock in the very heart of the city. Sometimes they will be pulled up and you walk right off into the old town of the city. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer of a trip. You may have to take a shuttle bus if we're going to the center of the city or take and walk in, but it's never very far. There's always going to be a destination focus with river cruising. There are, well, there's fewer, I should have put no. There are no sea days. And there are very few days where I can't even think of an itinerary where you wouldn't port at least once and one destination. There are some days that you will spend more time sailing during the day, depending on where you're going, like the Rhine River Gorge. That is a daytime sailing that takes about half to three-quarters of the day. But it's definitely well worth the time on the ship. So every day is a new port. River cruising is not necessarily for those that want to sleep in every day and have late to port activities because it just doesn't really happen. And then there's the experience style. Intimate atmosphere emphasizes cultural immersion over ship entertainment. So while there is some ship entertainment, it's going to be more casual entertainment. There may be a singer or a pianist in the bar after dinner, just remembering that you're not generally done dinner until about 9 o'clock at night. So there's lots of people that choose to turn in, but there is the bar and the lounge where you can have that entertainment, but there are no big fancy ocean shows at night on a river ship, just because it's generally a much earlier crowd than it is on the ocean. So this is another photo that is taken from the river, actually. This is on the Danube. Your river cruise journey awaits, so don't hesitate to connect and explore with the local crew for tips. Use your open seating to meet like-minded travelers. And always embrace the pace. Slow down, savor the coffee breaks, ask staff for personalized recommendations. And if you decide you don't want to participate in a shore excursion, that's totally okay. You can walk off the ship and go and explore on your own. They will always provide the all on board time where you need to be back to the ship, so that you can take the ship to the next port. But you're free to do what you want during the day, and the cruise director will help you. They'll show you on a map where you want, if you want to go someplace specific, like a certain museum or anything like that. They'll make suggestions of places to eat in town if you want to grab a bite in town. They're always more than happy to accommodate and to help you get the adventure that you want out of your trip. And start planning. River Cruise offers perspective changing experiences, and we are happy to help you with expert advice at any point in time. So feel free to always reach out and we'll be able to help find the right itinerary, the right river company, whatever it takes to get you the trip that is ideal for you. Because there is a river cruise company and a river cruise itinerary for anybody that wants to explore the rivers. I do believe that's it for me. I just going to check my notes, make sure I didn't forget anything. Oh, I should mention Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi and the internet. While river ships have fairly good internet, it will sometimes drop in between countries, but it's usually only for 15 minutes to a half an hour. There is not an additional charge for the internet. It is included on every ship and every line I've ever been on, unlike the ocean ships. And when you're on the ship, you've got free Wi-Fi and it is good enough to do work or whatever you might want to do with it, calling home, doing photos, all that jazz. So the internet is good. Let me just see here. I had a lot of notes for this session. All right. One of the other things I have is river cruising safe for solo travelers? Most definitely. Because it is an intimate experience, it's actually a great choice for solo travelers because there's so many more people looking out for solo travelers, as well as it makes it really easy for solo travelers to make new friends if they want. They've got the crew to ask for tips and ideas if they're doing things on their own. So yes, it's 100% a great option for solo travelers. There's also quite a few different lines that offer some really great pricing for solo travelers. So highly recommend it as something that is a great idea for solo travelers. Seasickness. No, you do not get seasick on the rivers. There is no current that is like it's just not strong enough to make the ship rock like it does on the ocean. So I've never seen anybody sick on a river ship. I actually don't even really notice the ship moving 98% of the time. The odd time I'll hear it. If I'm laying in bed at night, sometimes I can hear the water then, but it's not something that would make me feel sick. And I have been sick on the ocean several times. So no, that one is a good thing. So that's it for my notes. So like I said, river cruising is more than a vacation. It's an experience to connect culturally, historically, with the places that you're going and the things that you're seeing. It is my absolute favorite way to travel. If I could only ever travel by river again, I'd be quite happy. So yeah, feel free, reach out. Again, my name is Penny with One River at a Time from Hidden Gems Travel. And thank you for taking the time to join us today.